What we do know is that quite often parents, for many reasons, some of those I've mentioned, they are a bit hands off with it. And that's where our responsibility comes in, to make sure that the platform is safe for everybody. And I've worked in online safeguarding all of my career, or safeguarding all of my career. And I, really wouldn't be at a platform if I felt that we weren't safe.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Squeezing the Juice, an extended reality podcast from Juice Immersive. My name's Owen Cottrell, co-founder and creative director of Juice and lover of all things XR. Today, I'm thrilled to be joined on the show by Laura Higgins, Senior Director of Community Safety and Civility at Roblox. Laura, thank you so much for joining us on this, our second episode. How are you doing?
Hi, Owen. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me on.
Not at all. It's an honour to have you here, especially so early in our podcast journey. So thank you for joining us. Laura, first of all, for those viewers and listeners who aren't in the ranks of the 71.5 million daily users Roblox has, active users, what is Roblox?
So Roblox is a creation platform. Firstly, everything is UGC. It's all created by an amazing community of developers all over the world who build experiences using something called Roblox Studio. Some of it is just for hobbyists where they build experiences for themselves, but there is a whole economy around it. We are truly a metaverse platform, although I know that term is a little au fait these days. But essentially, it is a place where you can come, you can play, you can hang out with your friends, you can have different experiences like going to pop concerts, going to fashion shows, or that creative side where you kind of build avatar assets or experiences as well. So there's an education element to it. It really is a little bit of everything all in one platform.
Would you say Roblox is the quintessential world building experience and ultimately the leading creator platform out there? There are several of us out there, so we would never claim to be the quintessential. I think we're really proud of what we've created. All of those platforms that are out there, whether it be the kind of sandbox stuff or Minecraft, for example, they all offer different experiences in a different way. I think where we have got that slight difference really is that total range of things that happen within the platform. It is not, when we think about what Fortnite have done, yes, it is much more of a creator base now than it certainly was when it first sort of launched. But for us, it doesn't just have to be about that element. There are, as I say, there's more sort of slightly social, creative, artistic, entertainment side of things. We do interestingly see some people using it for work and education. We've had, colleges in the US using it for teaching, for example. So there really is just that breadth of things, which I think sets us apart. Amazing. So, yeah, I think there was, it's often been said, but there's certainly a quote from someone in the leadership team more recently that Roblox has organically evolved to become much, much more than a gaming platform. So, yeah, could you elaborate a bit on some of the instances and experiences and events that have taken place on the platform that kind of talk to that evolution?
Yeah, definitely. So, the first thing is, we definitely don't see ourselves just as a gaming platform. One of the things is you can play games, you can build games on our platform. But for a lot of people coming in, that's not really their main focus. It is, the community element is really important. We have had music experiences like Lil Nas X a couple of years ago was a huge thing, and he was so hands-on, worked with our teams, with the people who created the experience. He created all of the video elements himself, and was really involved in that process, and that was just really joyful. It was very well received by the community. We kind of offer a little bit more like self-service now, where it's not so much brand partnerships directly, but brands coming to us and linking with the community and really leaning into that sort of developer-led element where we just kind of help to connect them, and then they go off and they build these amazing experiences. We see lots of kind of awareness raising work that goes on. So things like
marine conservation and raising awareness of different issues. And this is where the community really are the ones leading on that and bringing it to the forefront. And of course, then there's the stuff with big brands where, we are absolutely honoured that they see us as a place where they want to be. So we've had Gucci put on an amazing both show, but also it was a kind of curation of some of their latest sort of accessories and fashion. One that also always jumps out to me was Elton John's collaboration, which was amazing, where his son plays Roblox. And as he was finishing his last tour, he said he wanted a place where he could curate his fashion, his music, and leave it for posterity. And he worked with some of the Roblox community to build this amazing experience, which for youngsters who maybe aren't familiar with Elton John, they can just go and play and it's fun and they learn a little bit. But for those of us who are a little bit older, who perhaps might have, a little bit more awareness, it's a real kind of throwback through both the fashion and the music. Mindfulness and the well-being element, I think, is also something that we're really proud of, that we see a lot of in the platform. So a partnership we did with Aloe Yoga, which is a much bigger brand in the US, but is here in the UK now as well, where they just built a mindfulness retreat, essentially, called the Sanctuary. And people could just go and be given tutored mindfulness sessions just for a couple of minutes and earn rewards by just having that downtime. And there were, follow along yoga lessons that you could join in with. Just a really lovely place. But what we were hearing from the community is just what it meant to them. And one anecdote particularly was from a young girl whose parents were getting divorced. And she said, "My house is chaos. Everyone's angry. And just to come here and spend some time has been absolutely amazing." So, there's such a variety of things that happen on the platform.
That's amazing. I think we'll come on to the kind of community element of Roblox and the value that you generate for people who are part of that community or communities. But just to stay with the sort of the big moments and some of the blockbuster kind of events that the platform's seen. John, the producer of Squeeze and Juice, and I were talking yesterday about when Stranger Things and Netflix did an event on the platform. And just, can you tell us a little bit about that and kind of what that represented? Because it feels very much like that's a big convergence of traditional entertainment media and a kind of metaverse style gaming platform.
Yeah, so that particular, we've actually done a couple of them. So in relation to the launches of the shows, but also now like the lead up to the stage show and so on. It's a long-term relationship that we had with them. And again, even the cast were very involved. They were coming and, meeting people at Roblox and getting really hands-on with the creators as well. It was a very personal thing. It's a real honor for us, as I say, when whether it be Warner Brothers or whoever, or Universal or one of those big companies come to us and they trust us, and that it's a really great way, as you say, for them to connect with an audience in the place where the audience is, as opposed to it being much more of a kind of advertising thing, and that playfulness about, people being able to experience it and as I say, not just an advertising thing, but actually to be able to be part of the Stranger Things world. I think it was really well received, and I'm sure there's going to be a lot more of that coming as well.
Yeah, I think we when we were chatting about it, likened it to being able to immerse yourself in a world that you love. And it felt very much like a memory I have of some of the earlier sort of secret cinema experiences I had in the real world, where the Back to the Future one, for example, where you were sat in a replica town square of Hill Valley watching the film play out on the clock tower. And then at the appropriate moment in the film, a DeLorean starts driving around in the real world. And it feels like you guys did kind of very, very similar immersive experiences through that type of event.
And that is the joy of these sort of metaverse spaces, is, as you say, it feels immersive. It's your avatar being a part of these experiences with the well-known characters, the beloved characters. So yeah, I love that we can do that. Just recently, I haven't actually played it yet, I have to confess, but we've just launched Jaws, an official Jaws tie-in, which I think is fantastic. It's one of my favourite films. But yeah, that idea of that secret cinema, I would love to go and experience that in the real world. So doing it in Roblox is a close second.
Good stuff. Does that, like you mentioned the Jaws tie-in there, does that represent a kind of progression in terms of the demographic of people who are using the platform. I think it perhaps gets a sort of presumptive view from people that it's a kids thing, that there's younger folk on there.
So I think, it's helpful to go back in time. So where we actually started, where we came from, was we were created as something that was used in classrooms to help kids to be able to carry out physics experiments that they couldn't do in the real world. So, what would happen if you dropped a car off a skyscraper? Clearly, we can't do that in a classroom environment, but they could using something that was a very early prototype of what became Roblox. So it was built with young people in mind. As we've grown up, we're now a young adult as a company, and so our audience has also grown. So whilst we do still have that younger demographic, actually naturally people who have enjoyed it throughout have come back as slightly older. So our fastest demographic is 17 to 24-year-olds. And of course, a lot of them are both using the social elements, enjoying playing the experiences, but there are also a lot of the creator community that are building the experiences with us.
That's amazing. So how are you and Roblox more widely kind of encouraging the growth of that creator community? Are there now kind of newer incentives for people to take creation seriously on the platform?
So, our tools and the capabilities have changed dramatically as we've grown. Recently we've just announced at GDC quite recently some new Gen AI tools which help developers to do certain things in terms of textures and things like that it would have potentially taken them days to do before. Now they can do within minutes. So we're constantly looking at evolving, bringing in those tools to really help the creators. Of course, we do have a thriving economy on the platform as well. So those top developers, those top games are monetized. And, we paid out, I think, nearly $750 million last year to our creators for those top experiences. That said, most people who come on the platform to create, they know that they're not there to make money. They are there to create an experience that they want, or there is that educational piece that we see quite often as well, which is potentially more of the younger ones. They're coming on, and it is that really basic kind of scratch level of learning how to build when they don't need coding skills. It's just a really easy access and fun way. We quite often hear like parents and kids would use it together as a kind of fun, engaging thing to just build something. Yeah.
Fantastic. If we can focus for a moment on the younger users of the platform, the younger children on there, I think I'm just going to have to pop these on for a quote. So Andy Robertson wrote on an Internet Matters article about Roblox that Roblox games reflect the sort of imaginative play you often find in the real world playground. One child has an idea about a game to play, others join him or her, and the rules slowly change as the group decides how to have fun together. That's, for me, a lovely kind of parallel between digital play and physical play in the real world. And do you sort of see that as a kind of cornerstone, really, of what it is that keeps people coming back day after day after day, certainly in that younger demographic?
I would say so. There is that real sense of community, that real sense of belonging that we see, and we also hear reflected back from the community and from parents as well. Of course, we have community standards. We set the tone ourselves. We put the safety and moderation practices in place. But you're right. What we see sometimes that beautiful organic element of, hey, this is the community we want. This is how we want people to be with one another. And when people are like, not bad actors, they're not breaking the rules, but maybe acting in a slightly odd way, you'll see the community go, hey, that's not how we play around here. This is how we play. And just that really positive reinforcement and role modeling. And it spreads. It's quite infectious, of just having that friendship, safe places, and positive. I think it's really helpful, my role in terms of the civility and safety education is, of course, there are times we need to use those sanctions, but it's lovely to see the prevention of people not actually getting to that bad space where they need the, being banned or whatever, So it's really, it's great to see that.
Thanks, Laura. I think there's always an inevitability, I suppose, particularly where younger children are concerned, the conversation will start going into safety elements. And indeed, we met recently via an NSPCC event around gaming and keeping younger gamers or younger users safer in games platforms. So while we're on that topic, should parents be scared of Roblox? Indeed, are parents scared of Roblox?
So they're two very different things. I'll start with the first. They really shouldn't be scared of Roblox. Any platform, there is a potential risk factor. And I think, the more that we can talk to parents about being vigilant, how to have conversations with their kids. We have a raft of parental controls on the platform. We really encourage, particularly with the younger users, this might be their first experience in online spaces. So we want to empower the parents to be able to support the kids. And some of that will probably start with having everything on the highest restriction and then having those conversations until the kids are confident enough that they can, and they grow up a little bit, that they can kind of loosen some of that and let the kids have a bit more freedom. But those conversations still need to carry on, I think. That's one thing. People quite often think, oh, well, I'm just going to have that conversation when my kid's 7, 8, 9, and then they don't talk about it when the kid's 12, 13, 14. Which is probably when they're more likely to come across bad content or bad people. So, it's really important that we just empower, as I say, and just keep reinforcing that this isn't a chore. This is just the development of you and your parenting and your conversations with your kid. So I think that's one thing. And then yes, it feels quite often like we're putting it all on the parents. But the more that we can do to help the parents to know how to have those conversations and for them to feel that they have some element of control, I think is really important. What we do know is that quite often parents, for many reasons, some of those I've mentioned, they are a bit hands off with it. And that's where our responsibility comes in to make sure that the platform is safe for everybody. And I've worked in online safeguarding all of my career, or safeguarding all of my career. And I, really wouldn't be at a platform if I felt that we weren't safe. So what does happen, of course, is, every now and then, like any platform in the world or any space where young people are, there will either be an incident that might happen, or there might be something that gets spoken about in the media or whatever, whether it's actually true or not. And that kind of, exacerbates this reputation, the fear. And I don't blame parents. We all consume our information through media, through social media, through word of mouth of friends who are like, I heard this about this platform. And again, so that's why I would say, I would love to reassure and say, no, we genuinely put safety first, and we do as a platform. Maybe we can talk about that in a second. But also it's our job to just keep reinforcing that and, do what we say. So that, we can't stop always these sort of stories circulating, but being able to just sort of, really hold that gold standard as much as we can is our duty.
Fantastic. Yeah. Let's move on to the community itself and how important they are to Roblox and everyone that works at the platform, but also how you do work hard to keep them safe. I had the pleasure of starting to listen to your podcast that you co-host with Jordan Shapiro into the digital future. And the first episode I happened to listen to was one that featured Jenny Ito, your colleague, who's senior product policy manager, I believe, at Roblox. And it came across really loud and clear in that episode, just how important safety is to the platform and how you are there, you guys, by virtue of, in your case, your background in and expertise in safeguarding, in Jenny's case, her background and expertise in developmental psychology of children. Can you talk a bit about how all of that comes to bear on everything that Roblox does? So,
as I mentioned, we were built, our founder, Dave Bazuki, builder man, he is a really good man. I will start there. He has great integrity. He leads very much by example in the way he is and has very high expectations of us as a company. And therefore, again, I'm really proud to be there. He's very hands-on actually as well. So, he is involved in conversations. It's not that he's just like, I'm the boss and I'm off. He's very thoughtful about decisions that are made in terms of the product roadmap and how we approach things. Safety, it sounds corny, but it is so true. But safety really is at the heart of everything we do. We have a very slow process. Very iterative, very thoughtful. So we have various risk assessment processes. We have something we call trust by design, which is a process whereby any big product change or policy change goes through numerous teams across the company to have that critical eye of it's more than just regulatory stuff, which, we welcome as well, which I think also sets us apart a little bit from other platforms. I think it's well needed, and we see our responsibility as working with those regulators to help shape really good policy that helps everybody. So that's one element. But yeah, so it is obviously the legal requirements, but also that, as you say, is it appropriate for different ages of young people? Where are the safeguarding issues? Where might there be other potential harms or problems that we might come across? Return on investment is really interesting for platforms, because what we've seen, this mass tech layoffs and things like that, sadly, quite often the first teams to go are the trust and safety teams. And I know I feel the same way, Owen. I shake my head too. But, for us, they are the core teams who help to educate and inform everything else that we do. So it's a kind of back to front approach. There's so much conversation about age regulation and verification and all of those sorts of things. For us, the platform is safe for anybody at any stage. And the only reason that we bring in those kind of age verification things is to allow a bit more freedom for those older users that we were talking about, so they can access a bit more, content or whatever. But at the core of our tenet is it's safe for everybody.
Yeah, so that keeping that community, or communities probably more accurately, safe on the platform is critical. How when it's positive, when it's good, can you kind of give us a sense, almost like bottle up, what a positive Roblox community can give somebody?
So we've just done this amazing piece of work. I can't quite share all of it because it doesn't launch until World Autism Day. There's a queue, which is coming in early April. That may well be by the time this episode comes out, in which case we can share these resources. But we've done a partnership with Internet Matters here in the UK. If you don't know them, go and have a look on their website. Amazing digital parenting support for everybody. But specifically looking at kids and families with neurodiversity, and what online spaces, games particularly, mean to them. Not just Roblox. We're very clear that we have an ability to do these pieces of work, but actually we want it to be beneficial across the board. But yeah, really just trying to understand the good, the bad, the ugly. Where can we all collectively as a tech industry provide more support for those families? But this came from just over time. I've been at Roblox for over 5 years. And in that time, I have met with so many families who are like, hey, my kids got autism and, they've really struggled in real world experiences. They struggle with communication. They struggle at school. And yet they have this amazing group of friends in Roblox. They really thrive. They're so creative. I'm so incredibly proud of them. And thank you for providing this kind of safe space. But we also know sometimes it's more challenging because, not being able to moderate their screen time use and things like that. So we really wanted to understand and work together to provide support and some resources. We've worked with some amazing autism charities in the US and the UK on this. So there is real kind of expertise behind it. But we're really excited to be sharing some hopefully really useful resources for parents and young people coming very soon.
That's fantastic. I look forward to hearing more about that. It seems that the partnership working now is very much kind of part of the DNA at Roblox. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I mean, my job I'm really lucky. As I say, I've been at Roblox just over 5 years. I worked at the UK Safer Internet Centre for 9 and a bit years before that, where I ran our helplines. So I've gone from supporting victims of online harms and liaising with the tech platforms, but very much was in the sort of charity sector. And so being able to use my role now, where I've kind of swapped sides, if you like, but online harms is still one of the key things front and centre for me, is then working with all of those incredible organisations that are out there. We are essentially a tech platform. We are a Silicon Valley company. And whilst we do really mean well, we are not the experts in everything. And so working with those experts, whether it be digital parenting, child development, online safety, around the world as well. You know, we are a huge platform, as you mentioned. We are truly global. We can't be everywhere. So to support those organizations who are on the ground to co-create these kind of, you know, really well thought out resources and help to amplify each other's work is really important. But also it helps us as a platform, because part of my role is to listen to what's happening out there in the real world, bring it back in, feed that into the relevant teams in Roblox to help us sort of move our roadmap to make sure that we're always heading in the right direction.
Good stuff. Your job, Laura, must be really interesting. Like, I'm guessing you don't have 2 days that are really the same. But in your, could you tell us a little bit more about civility as it relates to the Roblox platform? It's an interesting part of your job title.
It is. So this is always a challenge, because define civility. So it is in part that bit that I was speaking about around helping people to have a really positive experience when they're on our platform. We talk about helping people to thrive. Our North Star is thriving. And what we're aiming to do is to have people thrive through Roblox, not even just on Roblox. So one side is, when you come and join our platform, here's what we want you to feel and experience. But we want to empower and give those skills to people that they can take everywhere else that they go as well. Our duty of care doesn't just stop when they leave Roblox. So whether it is the parents, the educators, law enforcement, other tech platforms even, it is about that collective raising up, you know, so how to have those difficult conversations, how to build resilience, how to spot risky situations, and having some really honest conversations sometimes as well is also a part of that. You know, we often say it's not about being nice all the time, although that would be lovely if people were, but it is about being appropriate. It's about setting those kind of standard rules of, hey, this is a shared space, and here's some expectations from you and from us of how we want this to be. So yeah, it's a privilege.
Yeah, I'll bet. It's kind of an equivalent of a workplace culture. Quite hard to define what it is, perhaps, but it's there's a feeling about how you should and will behave.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have, you know, safety is like those table stakes bits, whether it's the reporting functions, the blocking, you know, all of those filtering, all of those tools. But ours is the kind of wraparound that goes with that as well, of the, you know, as you say, building the healthy communities and that sort of sense of positivity.
I'm going to ask a question that kind of relates very, very closely, I suppose, to what we do as a company, which is work almost exclusively with enterprise and with brands. And I'll play devil's advocate for a moment. So if a client of ours, a brand client, were to say, Roblox is just a gaming platform for kids, is completely irrelevant to my world and to the commercial world of our brand, what would your response be? You alluded earlier to how brands are starting to really get it now and leverage Roblox, but what would your response be to that?
Well, my first response would be to laugh, probably. I think we are shocked every day by the brands who want to come to us. It's not that Roblox says, oh, you know who we should partner with, we need to go and talk to these people. It is the people coming to us because they are seeing organically the incredible reach that they're having, the brilliant engagement that they get from the community. And especially now this kind of aging up as well, as I say, like the high fashion brands that are coming day after day. And I think also that slight approach that it isn't us directly that they're working with. It is the fact that, we're acting like a matchmaker to match them with incredible creators and developers. And we just add the support and the safety. One thing I think, I hear over and over, particularly when there are not necessarily commercial brands, but, whether they're education brands or, big national corporations, but coming from a different place, is how safe are you? Like, both from their brand reputation, but also genuinely, if they have any interest in child safety, like, they want to know. And, that's a big part of my role, is both me going and meeting with people and sharing our practices. We try to be really transparent about what happens and how we manage things. And I think if ever there's a question, generally the two things that will turn them, one is the commitment that we genuinely have to safety and civility, but then also just being able to go look at the success of some of these other sort of brand activations that have happened. There were, I can't quote the numbers, I'm afraid, I don't have them in front of me, but because we have avatar items, some of the high-end fashion, they've actually sold avatar recreations of real world items, like a handbag, I believe it was a Gucci handbag, that sold for the equivalent of more than the actual real world bag, which is kind of mind-blowing when you think about it like that. But, both for them in terms of they're hitting that right audience for them. This is not a 9-year-old who's bought it. It's clearly a young adult or collector or, so it's really interesting watching it develop day after day.
Is there a talent piece here as well, particularly where enterprise and brands can be concerned? So you mentioned earlier that there's a huge amount of value that people get from being part of the Roblox community, and presumably one piece of value for those that really take to being a creator on here is that it sets them perhaps on a path in a certain direction, whether it's in coding or whether it's in architecture. They're becoming makers, placemakers, experience makers at a certain age, and surely that is positive both for them as individuals, but also for the world of enterprise.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've watched the growth of what were hobbyist creators on the platform. I'm sure many of the listeners will be aware of a game called Adopt Me. For many years, it's been our most popular and probably most well-known experience. They started out as a very small group of young people. They now have a professional studio with dozens and dozens of staff who are employed full-time to work on this experience. That is truly them building a full business. I've seen other developers who have started out quite young, but then they've gone off and worked at other studios and worked in other sort of game settings. They've come back quite often. One is because that community, but of course what we also offer is that kind of startup for them of, it's very expensive to go start a game studio and put all the safety and the servers and everything that's needed and the platform fees and all of those things. So just as a jumping off point, the fact that we can do that for young people, not just young people, but for people starting out in the industry, is really helpful for them. And I think it's very well appreciated. Our community is incredibly faithful. And also now we're seeing professional studios, so people like Super Social and Dubbit, who they create a huge range of games and experiences, but then they're building an awful lot within Roblox and bringing in Roblox developers as well, because we have an amazing audience that they can speak to, and it's just a very healthy place, I think, for these businesses.
Yeah, it feels very much like Roblox and other creator platforms are very much encouraging the next generation of makers and builders.
Yeah, very much so. And yeah, as I say, watching some people I've actually known in real life, UK devs who I've met in person, and just watching their skill set grow. And as we've matured with the tools that we're offering them, they've kept up pace with it. So they have gone from that kind of very basic level of coding to now being employable pretty much anywhere. It's lovely that they still choose to hang out with us, but they could go work anywhere they want.
It's quite a humbling symbiosis going on there. I like that. Okay, lovely stuff, Laura. Thank you. So just a quick one, I think, on Roblox and where next. Where do you see Roblox in, say, 10 years' time, Laura?
Well, we're still going to be here. I think our evolution is so consistent. It would be very hard for me to say what Roblox is going to look like. We already have so many different aims and arms and things that are happening. I think you're just going to see more of that happening. There's definitely going to be increase, which we're already seeing, but increased giving back to the community, whether that be financially, but also, you know, we are working on giving the community more tools. So we still provide that same level of safety, but actually giving them more sort of control over what happens in their experiences as well. So I think that's going to continue happening. More and more of the stuff that I do, so the partnership working, you know, we talked about partners thinking like safety partners, but actually collaboration across the tech industry. Last year, we did this incredible project called the Civility Innovation Workshops in partnership with the Digital Wellness Lab, which is Boston Children's Hospital and Harvard Medical School. And we brought together over 100 experts from all different backgrounds, academia, child safety, etc., but a lot of the tech companies. And it was a hypothesis of in 5 to 10 years, we can make online spaces, including Roblox, more safe and civil than the real world. What do we have to do? And it was so refreshing to sit with those tech platforms specifically to say, don't want to hear what you're doing right now. Don't want to hear about your tools. Don't want to hear about what you're working on. We need to really forecast and think what do we need to do in 5 years on tech innovation, policy innovation? How do we reach those parents, those kids that we're not reaching right now? So we created a white paper. Hopefully we'll be able to share that with people. And there's a lot more work coming in that space. One of the overriding results that came out of those meetings was having much more youth engagement, youth participation, youth co-creation, really. And I think we're going to see across the board a lot more focus on that from all tech platforms, which is very well needed, rather than perhaps more of a tokenistic, oh, we have a youth board. It's that actual meaningful listening and trying to enact what young people are asking for.
Fantastic. Just before we wrap, I think you kind of touched on it earlier, really, but I'll ask the question regardless. Does Roblox still describe itself as a metaverse platform? You brought it up earlier. So
no and yes. It's, you know, that there is no such thing as the metaverse. And I've spoken at many metaverse conferences about this. You know, I think it got very conflated with, you know, all of the kind of blockchain and NFTs and all of these sorts of things. We are not in a position where we're interoperable with other platforms. So in that sense, no, this is not the Snow Crash version of what a metaverse is. What we meant by it, and we still mean by it is a place where you can almost have what you would in the real world. You have your identity, you know, it's consistent, it's immersive, you have this variety of experiences, it's cross console and devices, etc. So I think that's the essence of when we use the term metaverse, as opposed to what other people think of as a metaverse. But yeah, it is just that truly immersive space.
Absolutely. And I think I certainly, for one, would put Roblox and platforms like it into the XR kind of bucket. It's an extension of reality.
Yeah, it is very much so. And, you know, when we look back on, dare I say, but the COVID lockdown times and things like that, you know, particularly for younger people and teenagers, it really was a place where they could at least feel like it was a bit like, you know, whether it be connecting with family members, hanging out with their friends and being able to play games and go to a fashion concert, when they definitely couldn't do that in the real world at the time. So, you know, we have seen it, and long may that continue and grow.
Good stuff. Okay, Laura, just to wrap then, how can people find you, follow you? I mentioned the Into the Digital Future podcast earlier, but please do feel free to give that a plug as well. Yeah, how can people kind of follow Laura Higgins and your work?
So you can find me on LinkedIn under Laura Higgins _. Also, go visit our website at corp.roblox.com. you'll see there's a whole microsite there, Safety and Civility. It's got loads of great resources, everything from wellbeing to parental controls to resources from our partners. So please do go have a visit of that.
Brilliant stuff. Thank you, Laura. Thank you ever so much for your time today. Really, really great pleasure to have you on the show so early on in our existence, and you're a podcast trailblazer, and we're just following in some footsteps, really. But it's been an amazing conversation. Thank you very much, and I hope you'll come back on the show in the future.
Thank you so much, Owen. Let's aim for before that 10 years so that we can give you an on the way update. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to future episodes as well. Thank you for inviting me.
A pleasure. Thank you for joining us. Cheers, Laura. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Squeezing the Juice. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you'd like to give us a thumbs up, a like or a follow, wherever you get your podcasts, it'll help us grow our tribe as we build the pod. I look forward to welcoming you back soon when we'll be squeezing the juice with another guest from the world of XR. Until then, take care.